Delighted to welcome, frankly, she's not just an actress with an OBE. She is one of the legends, isn't she? A Harry Potter star, Blackadder star, and of course, a Watching Rosie star, and indeed, of course, star now of her own 3-part series, Almost Australian. The wonderful, the legend that is Miriam Margolyes, OBE, comes to the show. Good morning to you, Miriam.
Well, what a lovely tribute. Thank you very much.
Well, no, absolutely fabulous to talk to you. Now, your show, Almost Australian, it started last Friday. It's a 3-parter. It's on BBC Two, 9 o'clock on Fridays. And it's all about you deciding 6 years ago to become an Australian citizen. Why did you do it?
I didn't want to wait in visa queues anymore. That's the reason. And it's not all about me. It's all about Australia, actually. It's the Australia that I felt I didn't know and wanted to have a chance to discover. And I'm so thrilled that so many people watched it last week. And I hope that there's another lot to come because it's going on for 2 more weeks. I really am excited because it was the most difficult, challenging experience I think I've ever had in a work situation. And I learned a great deal and I met some wonderful people and they're still in my life. I got a message from the O'Brien family this morning, who are the lovely farmers who are in Trundle, who are experiencing drought that was really finishing their lives and their town. So it's been thrilling.
No, but you decided to become, background though, you decided to become an Australian citizen at the age of 71. Have you moved there? Are you back in Blighty and still living in Britain but keeping Australian citizenship?
That's exactly it. I live in England. I have a house in Australia with my partner, and that's where we spend quality time together. But of course we can't at the moment because we can't go there. So it's an Airbnb rental at the moment, and I miss it very much. I mean, I'm happy in Clapham. Clapham's nice, and I've got a nice house and a garden.
It's not quite the outback, though.
It isn't. No. And we're living in really wretched times. I mean, I don't know when I've lived through anything so ghastly, frankly. And when I listen to the news just now and I hear that Biden's going gaga, that's all we need.
Well, let me ask you about this, because I mean, a lot of people were a bit concerned that you'd in a recent interview during lockdown said you'd almost wish that Boris Johnson, when he went into hospital, had died of coronavirus. You sort of stopped yourself and sort of stopped yourself from saying, but did you really honestly think it would be a good thing if the Prime Minister died?
No, I didn't. I didn't say that. I said at first I thought I wanted him to die, and then I thought I don't want to be the sort of person that wants somebody dead. So I wished him to get better, and he did. But I wished he would become a different sort of person. That's what I actually said.
Yes.
And all that nonsense about wanting him to die is something that the newspapers made up because it sells papers, apparently. I must have become more important to make it onto the front page. Ridiculous.
Well, you say you wanted him to become a different sort of person. What would your ideal version of the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, look like, think like and act like?
Keir Starmer.
It's as simple as that. It's just his politics you don't like rather than the personality?
I don't like what he does. I don't like the fact that he doesn't know how many children he's got. I don't like the fact that he's an adulterer. I don't like the fact that he is a liar. I think this is all perfectly normal. I mean, anybody would hate that. I just don't understand why the majority of Britons think that he's okay, because he's not. And I'm a Labour supporter, and there it is. I'm sorry to be so political on your programme.
No, we mostly do politics, Miriam, so I'm very welcome of that. What do you make then of the polling? I mean, despite everything that's happened with the pandemic, and there'll be plenty of people who may have voted for Boris Johnson and voted Tory all their lives who have question marks about how the pandemic has been handled, that the Tories are still polling well ahead of the Labour Party in terms of trust on the economy, handling the pandemic, personal satisfaction in individuals and the like, that they're still polling well ahead of the Labour Party. What do you make of that?
I don't accept that they're polling well ahead of the Labour Party. They may be on many things, but not on the Prime Minister. He is not as popular as Keir Starmer. And I think if they do prefer the Tories, then they're nuts, because then it means that most people are not aware of the real situation, that they're reading what the newspapers tell them and believing it and not looking into the facts themselves.
Even though the media has been very critical of the government and the Prime Minister.
Sorry, say that again?
Even though the media has been very critical of the government and the Prime Minister.
I think it is now being a bit more critical because it has no option, because they're making a fantastic mess of things. I'm trying to pick my words carefully because it's early in the morning and I don't want to offend people.
Never bothers me, don't worry.
Well, no, I think that people simply don't know what's really going on. They don't see for themselves how terrible life is for a huge number of people. And it's going to get worse when Brexit comes. Brexit was a con that was pushed onto the nation. It's being fixed up behind our backs. We don't know what's going on because the government's hiding under COVID. And I think it's a disgrace, and I am terribly worried and upset for our nation. It's a disaster.
I thought we'd get on to Brexit. You do realise it's more than 4 years on now since we had that vote, and people were told by pretty much everyone in the establishment across the board that we should vote for Remain and not vote for Brexit. And the British people went, no, we'll vote for Brexit. And at every opportunity since, when there's been a public vote to vote for parties that support delivering Brexit rather than stopping it, they've chosen to support delivering Brexit. Do you not think it's now time that you and many others like you, particularly in the arts world, just sort of, I don't know, let it go and embrace it?
If you're on a train and you know it's going to crash, you get off.
But why do you still think that it's going to crash? Why do you still think that Brexit's going to be such a disaster? I mean, bearing in mind, we did leave on the 31st of January. We're still in the transition period. We may get a deal, may not get a deal. But why do you think it's going to be such a disaster?
Because the government are not interested in making decent deals. They're not prepared to, and we're going to leave without a deal. And the world is not going to help us out. Why should they?
Why do we need the world to help us out?
Well, they're not going to. Why should they?
No, but why do we need them to? Why can't we trade as an independent nation, the sixth most powerful nation in the world?
America, did you say America's the most powerful nation?
No, we are. We're the sixth most powerful nation, economically and in the world. Why do we need other people to help us out? Why can't we just trade as an independent nation and carry on as we were, which we did for centuries before we joined the EU?
We are not able to make deals that will be better than the deals that we already have in the European Union. We are going to have to accept the control of America now. We talked about taking back control. We've given it away. We're going into the American orbit, and that's a place I do not want to be.
Haven't we always been in the American orbit? I mean, haven't we always been in the American orbit? I mean, given a choice between superpowers, I'd choose America over China every time, if that's the choice.
I wouldn't choose China, but I don't choose America. We had a very decent world that we were operating in, which was the European world. We are European. We're part of Europe.
Yes.
And this is an absurd step to take. And all the statistics that we were fed by the Tories were lies. They were not true. We were lied to. We were not given.
Lots of people would argue that a lot of the statistics we were fed by the Tories about Remain being the right choice by Cameron and George Osborne in 2016 were also proven to be lies. Look, let's get back to what's happening now. Right now, the government's announcing measures to try and help save film and TV production today, helping the production that's been massively hit by the pandemic to actually be able to, for instance, just get insurance so they can get back to work, because that's been a big issue. Is there any more areas that do need help from the government? Because we know cinemas and theatres are desperately struggling. Many are closing down as a result of the pandemic and the hit not being able to have audiences. What do you want to hear from the government? What do you want to see to help get the arts world back up and running again?
As a freelancer, I have to say that I would like to see more help for freelance people, because most of the people who perform in our industry are freelancers. Very few actually are members of companies. And I have always felt that the big companies like the National and the Royal Opera House would somehow manage. But it's the small theatres and the small people, the people who don't have jobs year in and year out. I don't know how the government will find enough money to help us. I don't know how it can be done. But I know that my colleagues in all parts of the industry are truly scared and suffering because we see our industry as killed off. I don't understand how it can come back.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a worry, isn't it? And I know you are starring in a new online short play, Watching Rosie, commissioned by the Original Theatre Company, and that's going to be online from 7 p.m. on Thursday, the 6th of August. But again, you can't have a live audience. Do you miss the live audience?
Of course. It's what feeds us. It's what we enjoy. It's that golden link between them and us that makes it alive and buzzing. It's a wonderful experience. And I can tell you that looking into the little silver eye of the top of my computer, which is how we do it with Zoom and so on, it's no substitute.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you that. No more guests in the studio here either. Miriam Margolyes, it's been an absolute pleasure joining you today. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here at talkRADIO.